Hello everyone and welcome to another video. As some of you may know, I'm working on converting my Ford Transit passenger van into sort of an adventure van. And what I want to do is continue that discussion today by talking about how to remove the headliner in the van. So if that sounds like fun to you, why don't we jump over and get started. Today I want to talk about taking off the headliner on a Ford Transit van. So what am I talking about? Well, let's walk inside and I'll show you what we're referring to. I'm talking about the headliner here. So this is a Ford Transit passenger van. So it's not a cargo version. So it has this nice headliner on the top. And you'll notice that this headliner is actually broken up. It's 4 distinct sections. So let's call this first one headliner H1. And then here is the second partition, headliner H2, and then there's another break, and then finally you have the third one right here, headliner H3, and then finally you have one more piece of headliner at the very far back. Let's call that H4. So what I want to talk about is how we're going to take all these off. All right, so the first thing we're going to want to do is remove these plastic bolt/pins. There's 6 of them. So 1 and 2 of them here are in the front that are actually securing headliner number H2 to the roof. And then there's another 2 in the middle and then another 2 on the very far back. So there's 6 of these plastic bolts total. So it's pretty easy to get these off. All you got to do is get yourself a little trim tab removal tool. It's just really a piece of plastic that has a thin edge here that can work its way in, and then you just kind of work it into the bolt and just pull down with the tool and your fingers at the same time, and eventually once you pull, this thing will come out. And let me bring this a little closer. You can see what this bolt actually is. It's really just a piece of plastic with some barbs. And you'll see that when you pull it out, the barbs might get bent, but that's okay. It'll insert back okay. So let's go ahead and remove all 6 of these. So we just did 1 here. There's 5 more. I'll go ahead and pause the camera and we'll come back once we've got all 6 of those bolts removed. All right, so we got all 6 of those plastic bolts removed. So now I'm going to move to the back of the van and actually start working on the last entry. So this is headliner H4. So H4 is in the way back, and you can see here's the seam between H3 and H4. Now, it's probably going to be impossible to see, but if you reach your fingers up here, you can eventually find, I don't know if you can kind of see, let me see, that's really hard to see, huh? Well, there's a piece of plastic in here. There's one more bolt that's right here, and you're gonna have to pull this thing out. I think the easiest thing to do is, let me just pull this thing out and we'll get a better look at what it looks like and how to remove it once we can see it a little better. So give me a second to actually remove this and I'll be right back. All right, so I've got those 2 pins off, and let me show you what I'm talking about. If I pull this down a little bit, you can get a better view. You can see here is one of these orange plastic tab pin plug things that just go up into this hole in the roof. There's one here, and then there's one on the driver's side as well. Yeah, right there, okay? And what I wanted to point out, let's come back here to the passenger side one and get a better look. You can see that the way this thing is secured to the headliner is it's literally just glued. I mean, look at this. You can see the yellowish glue, which glues the black plastic housing to the headliner. So what I'm trying to say is, when you're trying to remove this and get this orange piece to pop out of the ceiling, you do not want to be pulling down by where I am right now, right? You can see if I pull right here with the headliner, there's a high likelihood that this glue is just going to rip off. So instead, what you want to do is you want to make sure your fingers are on the black housing. So you're going to have to snake your fingers up into the headliner, put it over this black housing, and apply force to the black housing so you're not stressing the glue. And if you do that and you just pull straight down, this will pop off. Then slide your fingers over to the other side. And this other one on the driver's side, you can kind of see is actually oriented in a slightly different fashion. So there's actually a nice little hole for your finger to go in. And same thing, you just want to pull down. So there, so this headliner H4 in the back is pretty much ready to go. Let's go and move forward a little ways and I'll show you. Let's go here to headliner H3, and there's a similar setup. So I'm going to snake my fingers, see if I can find the piece right here. There it is. Okay, I'm going to put my fingers on the black part and pull straight down. So again, I'm not applying pressure to the headliner. I'm applying pressure to that black plastic housing. And if I pull straight down, there we go, pop. Right, this guy pops out. Okay, let's do it one more time here on the driver's side. So I also got to snake my fingers around, find out where it is. There it is. Okay, I got it. Okay, and then I got to pull. There we go. Okay, and then that's off. So I think there's one more set that we might have to snake around on headliner H2, which is here in the front. And let me pop that off and we'll be back in a second. All right, so we've got all those tabs off, and all the headliners, they're still pretty solid and stuck. The thing that's holding them up now are actually all of these plastic pieces on the side. So on all of these A, B, C, D pillars or whatever, I can't remember the numbering, but these plastic pillars are going to all have to come off. So there's a bunch of them all situated around the perimeter of the van. So let me set this camera up on a tripod in the rear of the van, and I'll show you how those things pop off. All right, so we're back at the rear passenger side of the van, and to get these pieces off, it's actually pretty simple. They're all just held in by clips. So just kind of peel this seal back and work your fingers in, and if you just kind of work at this, you can pop this thing loose, and if you just pull it straight back, it should come out. There we go. Pop, pop, and then, yeah, again, just kind of pop it gently out of. And there you go. So there's one of these pieces off. We're just going to repeat this for all of the other column pillar covers. All right, sorry, on that last video clip, I think I forgot to show the details of what some of these pillar covers look like, particularly the clips on the back. So you can see they literally just have these kind of metal, copper, bronze, I'm not 100% sure what they are, but these clips periodically over them. And what they do is those will go into, you can kind of see some of the black, some of those holes. So for example, there's one, there's two, there's, well, I guess you can't see the other one because it's now covered up by the headliner, which is falling down, but that gives you a rough idea of how these things insert. They literally just push and pull in and out. All right, so now that we removed all of those plastic pillar covers, you'll see that these headliner pieces, in fact, I'm holding on to H3 right here, it's pretty much just falling down and ready to just pop out. You'll notice I forgot one piece. If you notice way in the back, as I zoom in to basically where H3 meets H4 near the rear of the van, I forgot one of those red, orange plastic tabs. So I'm gonna have to go back there and pop it off. So let's do that. And actually, maybe before we do that, I'll show you one thing. Notice the other thing that's still connecting the headliner to the van is this cable, which is the electrical cable for the dome light. So you may be tempted to just go ahead and remove it from the dome light right here, but I'm actually going to defer that because you'll see, even if you remove it from the dome light, this cable is glued to the headliner. You can kind of see some of the sticky glue right here. So I'm going to have to remove it in the rear at a different access point. So let's go ahead and pop off that clip, and then we'll take a look at how to get the wiring for the dome light off so that we can remove H3 completely from the van. All right, so I know this is a little bit awkward, but you can see that now that I popped off that rear tab, H3 is pretty much ready to fall off except for this wiring bundle here. So what we can do is let's just disconnect the wire from the harness at this point, and then I think the whole H3 bundle will be ready to pop out of the van. All right, so I pulled off the wire, so it just disconnected. It's pretty much a standard connector. The only other thing that maybe I should have mentioned is that the wire is attached to the upper bar. I think you can kind of see the supporting crossbar. You see these little round holes on the side of it? So this part, which is basically like a zip-tied plug which holds the wire on, was stuck into one of those holes. So you kind of have to work this out and pull it out, but it came out easy enough. And therefore, after you get that done, this entire H3 part is completely free and we can pull it out of the van now. All right, and actually, instead of trying to get all those odd camera angles, here's a much cleaner place to see the place where you've got one of these missing pins that I forgot to take out earlier, as well as the wiring harness connection for the dome light. So we're sitting here looking at the H2 section. So to get this thing removed, all you got to do is just pinch up here and remove the cable from the harness. Great, and then pull this thing out of the supporting bracket / cross brace. So just kind of wiggle this guy a little bit and you pull, and oh, come on. It takes a little bit of effort. I might need two hands to get this guy out, or maybe get the tool, but this should pull out of this if you, oh, there it goes. Whoops. Okay, and I should have used the tool because you can kind of see I kind of tore it. Oh well, that's okay. It should still probably fit. Oh yeah, see, look, it still fits back in there for reassembly later, but basically just pull this guy out. And now, once we pop this last missing orange bolt off of the headliner, piece H2 should also be ready to just fall out. All right, and here are the H2, which is actually the one up there, and then the H3, the one that's further back. Here are the two headliner pieces removed and just sitting here in the garage. I thought I'd maybe give you a little bit of a view of what it looks like You can kind of see here, again, those orange plastic tabs that are used to hold it into the roof. You can see the dome lights. And then up here on the H2 part, here's a little piece that's sort of interesting. If you look, there's actually magnets that are glued into it to hold this up on the ceiling. So I guess there's 3 of them on the H2 part. So again, this is what it looks like when you've got the headliner pieces removed. Why don't we jump back to the van and take a look at what it looks like with no headliners installed. All right, so let's walk in the passenger side door and take a look at what the interior looks like with no headliners. So, as you can see, I've left the headliner H1. H1, it still has some of these, you can see similar mounting schemes with those orange tabs. However, the H1 piece is a little bit more involved because there's this shelf that's used to store junk, and there's actually some pretty beefy bolts that are passed through the headliner H1. So getting rid of that or pulling them out so you can remove headliner H1 is a bit more involved. So I don't need to do that because I can do everything I need in this state, so I'm not going to actually remove it. But panning backwards, you can see here's where headliner H2 used to be. And now you can see what the interior looks like. And it looks like you can see there's a wiring bundle there, and then you can see the full side curtain airbag, as well as the air conditioning, routing and ducting. And then coming back, we'll see where the H3 unit used to be, right here. Interestingly, there's some, I don't know if this is like sound deadening material or something like that that's on the interior of the roof. And then finally, here's the H4 piece, which again, I've also left in because, let me show you. If we scroll all the way back to the rear of the van, you can see these are the 2 mounting points for the rear doors. Those where they come in and latch, and the headliner's jammed in there pretty good. And again, I don't need to remove this, but if you do, you just need to work a little bit there, and also removing that rear seal between the door and the headliner H4 should pop out as well. Since I don't need to do that, I'm going to leave it in this state. But otherwise, let me scroll over here and we can pan over and see what the passenger side looks like. Again, you can see the ducting for the cold air for the air conditioning, as well as the full length side curtain airbag. So that's what the system looks like with the headliner removed. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if so, I hope you'll also consider subscribing to the channel. Surprisingly, if you just scroll down a little ways and click on that subscribe button, it really does help me continue making these videos. I hope you'll join us at our next video, where I'm going to try to install some power and cabling through the interior of the van now that I've got the headliner out, as well as installing some extra lighting inside the headliner so I can use it for a camper setup. So with that being said, I think this is a great spot to leave it. I hope to catch you on one of the future videos. So I'll talk to you later. Bye.